Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be explaining my autistic special interest to my girlfriend. I decided to record it because, yeah, it'd make funny content. Anyway, enjoy and don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps me with the algorithm. Thank you. Enjoy. And here's the Dark Elves. They're very much more Eastern inspired. That's because they're over in Morrowind. Spires, spikes, stuff like that. Kind of aggressive architecture. It really kind of shows
Yeah,
how the Dark
I like
Elves
the
are.
I like the forest elves a lot more. The architecture.
Mhm. Just very alien. As you can see here, they've got large mushrooms as well that grow in their area. They have a very volcanic province. That's the one with the red mountain in it.
Mhm. I like nature. This is a little too aggressive.
Yeah. I like their architecture because I like Asian stuff. But here we go. We're
I
gonna
do like
go
Asian stuff, but I don't know. It's such a harsh look.
spiky,
It
scary.
looks it looks very futuristic almost, where it's like a futuristic esque castle. It is nice,
But
but
it's
it's not really my taste
it's
because it looks too new. It looks very clean.
it's almost like Asian and goth.
I like nature.
It's goth Asian. So we're going back to the Nords. This is their depiction of Kinnereth, or Kine, as they call her, from their totem deities. And this is the mountain they would believe they were breathed out upon by her. They believe that one day they just were breathed out onto this mountain called the Throat of the World by Kine, and that's how they came to be.
Mm.
They are from, if you look at them actually where they really are from instead of what they believe, or they could have been there and moved up there, they're from a province called Atmora. I put a little red circle so you can see what I'm talking about. And they had, because Atmora is so far north and so frozen, most of their buildings and stuff were underground. So they would build underground to keep away and get closer to the heat of the earth as opposed to being frozen by the wind. But because they're also from a very far north place, they have a very good cold resistance. Here is a very important figure in Nordic history. This is Isgramor, and this is his axe Wuthrad. And if you look closely, it looks like an elf, and it's got big old ears, and it's crying. And that's because this guy, let me see what the yeah, this guy went to from Atmora down and established a place called Sarthal. It's kind of hard to see. Um, Whoopsie daisy. Um, and Nords lived here for a bit with another race called the Snow Elves, who also lived in Skyrim at the time, and they were kind of chilling
Oh
out.
hell.
Mm-hmm. The Snow Elves. And they worshipped Auriel, and they're very much like an elvish group. And they lived with the humans pretty good for a while. Isgramor uh, built Sarthal with his little buddies, and they came over on this ship. Eventually, what happened was, though, um, the elves decided to kill everyone in Sarthal here. Um, why they did that, it is what it is. No one really knows. But they did it, and Isgramor and his two sons were the only ones to survive. Here's Sarthal on the map in Skyrim. And so they piloted their longship back to Atmora, got they got 500 people to come with them back to go raid the elves. So of course they did, and that eventually led them to the Battle of Mosring Pass, which involves the Snow Prince and the Battle of Mosring Pass. I just got this random 12-year-old on the internet who was blonde to get you an idea of it, but there was a little Nord girl named Finna who was 12 years old at the battle. She was like basically the squire for her mother when they were in the fight, and the Snow Prince killed her mother, and she was really upset about it. And this next beautiful picture will show you exactly what happens when you make a 12-year-old upset. A 12-year-old Nord
Mm.
picked up her mom's sword, threw it right into the guy's breastplate, went right the way through, and he died on the spot, breaking the morale of the rest of the snow elves at the fight. Then they were basically beaten out of Skyrim. So the Nords beat the snow elves and now have conquered Skyrim for themselves. This is why Nords are historically very, very xenophobic and racist, if you want to use terms, against elves, because they hate them. Because again, they're very bad. The elves they encountered were very bad, so they're like, well, all the other elves gotta be the same. Like I said,
Yeah,
racist, not very logical, just how they be.
but they got all beaten by a trophy boat.
Yes, the 12-year-old threw a sword directly, and you can kind of see it right into his breastplate. Gone, dead. Snow Prince dead. And so
Uh,
the Nords swept victory there, and they won.
Man,
So this is what happens to the snow elves that did survive: is they went down into the dwarven cities, which were another type of elf. These are the dwarves here for you. Um, they're called the Dwemer, the Deep Folk, and basically what the snow elves happened was the dwarves said, "You can hang with us away from the Nords to not be genocided, um, and I'll let you chill with us, but you have to eat these mushrooms." And the mushrooms made them blind, and then they kind of like adapted to be like golem creatures where they crawl around. Nords still tell stories about how they feel like if a child goes missing in the night, the Falmer got them, um, and this is what they're talking about. So
Why did they need to eat those mushrooms?
because the dwarves said you can stay down here, but you have to eat these mushrooms. And if you don't want to eat those mushrooms, you can't be in our great cities.
But why would they want them to be blind?
That's again, people really don't know
Did
about
it
that.
explain that? Okay.
No, that's a hard thing to. They didn't really explain that. What some people believe is that they were using the Falmer to read the Elder Scrolls. Haha. And the issue with reading an Elder Scroll is it makes you go blind if you. So the idea being that well, if you make them blind and then make them read it, then it'll be okay. Um, the
Yeah,
dwarves were
maybe
very
they
pragmatic.
were too much of a threat and they didn't want to.
Also, like, if you just take a bunch of strangers into your house and they're of a different race, if you're
Yeah, that's
xenophobic,
what I mean.
you'd blind them and so they're less of a threat. There's some rumors that
Yeah.
they use them as slave labor, but I don't think that's the case because the dwarves already had robots, so there would be no reason for them to have slave labor because they've already got robots to do that.
Yes, also you wouldn't want them to be blind then, probably, because they would be less useful.
Awful workers, yeah. So that's the aftermath of the Nords conquering Skyrim. And here's Skyrim. This is what they eventually split it up into. You have the Pale, Whiterun, Eastmarch, the Rift, Falkreath, the Reach, and then you have Hjalmarch up here. So, and Hafingar. So all of these holds are governed by different jarls, and they all work together, and they work under a guy, typically in Winterhold or in Solitude, who's called the High King of Skyrim. And all the jarls, work for the High King basically, and are, the kings of their respective regions, if that makes sense. So there's Skyrim for you. Now, Skyrim also, right after they beat all the elves, this is what the Nords, this is Nordic architecture right here. Skyrim was more temperate, so they decided to build a little bit more up off the ground. This is a dragon cult crypt, and this is a Draugr. And the reason why the dragon cult have Draugr is because of their dragon priests. So, and the dragon priests serve Alduin, this guy, and he is a
And what's
dragon.
a Draugr?
Nope, he's a dragon. So there's
But what is a
Draugr.
Draugr?
This is a Draugr, right here. Undead
So
human.
it's scary.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
Draugr. And then this is Alduin, um, the Nordic god of basically their Ragnarok, the end of the world. Um, this is because the Nords are very much, they don't like Ariel. Ariel is this giant, awful, scary dragon to them who eats the world and kills Lorkhan, and they don't like him or sure. So this is Alduin. They don't like Alduin. And then this is the dragon priest. But the dragon priests at the time worshipped the dragon, right? They worshipped Alduin because they believed that they don't really get into their beliefs. It's mostly power, right? Like, what are you going to do against a dragon? You know, if
Not
you're an
sure.
early human, right? Or if you're a
Usually
Nord.
I'd stab them in the chest when I'm playing Elden Ring.
Yeah, that works too. But Alduin can't be killed, so it's a bit of a problem.
Why can't he be killed?
Because he's a god,
He's a
allegedly.
dragon god.
Yep. So they formed a cult. Um, this is a dragon priest, and dragon priests would often wear these masks, as you see over here. Um, and these masks give their wielder power. This is another Draugr for you. Basically, the dragon priest sleeps in their crypt
Yeah. There was
once they
also a
die.
dragon priest in the Elden Ring DLC, right?
Yes, yeah, but these aren't. That dragon priest was different. This is just a normal human.
I know, but then I
So
understand it better.
Alduin can't really rule over humans all that well and dragons in general, because I mean, like, how are they going to be inside of a house? I think they like the idea of ruling more than they like the actual practice of it.
But
So
can
they
they
got
speak the same language?
they can, yeah, dragons can speak basic.
Okay, that's good.
So they rule through
That
these
makes
people
it
called
easier.
dragon priests, and these dragon priests would basically report to the dragons. The dragons would give them these powerful masks,
Yeah,
and
because they're more human form and it's easier.
yep, so they would rule through these dragon priests, who are normal men who were given power by the dragons, Alduin and his group of dragons who liked him, and then they would rule over the Nords, who were worshipping dragon priests who would then worship the dragons. It's a pyramid scheme. Um,
Basically, yes.
yeah. So the Nords, the dragon priests were given basically immortality. They can be died. You can kill them. You can stab them and kill them.
There can be died.
They can be died, but
That's good.
um, one thing that happens is once they're in their crypts, and the reason why the Draugr look this way is because these guys are siphoning their life energy out of the Draugr. These guys will pray to the dragon priest every day, wake up, take care of the crypt, and then go back to sleep, and then pray to the dragon priest, who will then siphon off their life energy.
It- But do they actually look like this, or are those masks in the
They have that underneath
like?
it. They wear the masks. Normally, they'd be wearing the masks because that's the sign of their authority. Um,
And what race are they? Like, what would they actually look like without the mask?
yeah, they'd be Nords. So
So they're basically just humanoid, like
yeah, they're
Nords.
Vikings. Yeah, basically human Vikings. Yeah. So these were normal people at some point, and then they rotted away because, of course, they're
Yes.
underground praying to the dragon
Okay.
priests and the like inside of these barrows.
Okay.
And so eventually, what happens is the dragons develop a form of language. Their dragon language is Dovazul, or dragon language. And the Nords would make big old, like you see here, big old structures. The dragon language is writ. And the cool thing about the dragon language is if you look at it, it kind of looks like you could like make it with a claw. You know what I mean? Like if you're a dragon, you're able to like claw into there with your claws. You can write it out. Um, Basically, that's what that is that the dragons taught men how to write in the dragon language and how to speak it. Dragon language is especially powerful because it allows you to project your voice into power. Um,
And you Vuswarda, and you blast someone.
Bingo. But it's really hard to get to that level unless you're a dragonborn because you have to meditate on that word over and over again.
But couldn't anyone just say the word and it would not work then?
It would not work because you'd have to truly take that word into yourself and understand it. It's like a
It
meditation
doesn't
thing.
work, so you know what it means.
You can know what it means, but if you like really, really know what it means, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But and then so nobody really liked the dragons being in charge because they were tyrannical evil. The dragon priests themselves were tyrannical and evil. And so they eventually the Nords rose up and they fought them and they got their asses whooped. Until new warriors who by Kine is what the Nords believe. I think Parthenax taught them the voice. Um, Understood the dragon language and were able to shout the dragons, basically meet on even playing field because the dragons whenever they use their breath attack or whenever they like push someone over with their voice they're using the dragon tongue. It's not some kind of inborn
Yes.
power, it's because they're using the magic power words and
They couldn't beat them, so they had to negotiate.
well kind of Parthenax is a different kind of dragon. He didn't like Alduin ruling over people either. He felt that they should exist kind of coexist with everything in nature, not rule above it, even if that's
Okay.
against his nature as a dragon. um And so Kine the goddess, told Parthenax to teach humans how to shout. And so he did, and the people who learned how to shout were called the tongues. Now, this made the Nords an absolute powerhouse because, the Nords never developed really any kind of machinery, no battering ram, nothing like that. What they would do is they'd get their tongues, they'd line them up in front of the gates, and they'd all fuzz roda and down come the gates. Then the axemen run in and pillage the city. Like it just they didn't need anything fancy because they already had the most powerful tools. Um, so that's that. That's the dragon tongue. So these guys and they fight Alduin. Now here we go. This is what happens to Alduin. They can't beat him because of course he's immortal unless you're another dragon born who can kill him. And so they bring an Elder Scroll, which what an Elder Scroll is it's a prophecy. And so what they do is they bring this Elder Scroll up to the throne of the world and they challenge Alduin to a fight. And Throne of the World obviously is where Kine's the strongest, so he's kind of weakened by that as well. And so they read the Elder Scroll and they think they banish him out of time, basically, is what they were hoping they did. So
Okay.
that's that. And then the dragons are
What's
defeated.
what's in the scroll?
It's text. If you read the scroll yourself, like this poor guy's doing here, you'll go blind. If you read the prophecy, you can read it and then you go blind because it's too powerful.
But usually if you would be able to read it, it would be like magic or dragon text or
Kind
not.
of. It's a prophecy, if that makes sense. It can tell future events that could happen. Sometimes while reading them, you can see that the words themselves change, trying to keep up. It's basically the story that's currently being unfolded. If that makes
Do
sense.
we know who wrote them?
No, that's the weird bit. Like you could say it was a divine. Sure, maybe it's a divine. I
I mean, it
personally
probably
think,
was if
yeah,
there's time things in it.
I'm thinking because it rewrites itself and because it's a prophecy, I'm thinking it was Alduin slash Akatosh slash um, the
Yeah,
Akatosh, who's the god of time, who basically wrote them, is my opinion, because it's a prophecy.
yeah, it got to be something like that because there was time in it.
Yep. I have no clue, but that's what that one is. All right, so that's enough about Skyrim. Time for Morrowind, baby. We got Afro, we got Mohawks, we got big bugs used
What's
for
the
transport.
difference between Skyrim and Morrowind?
Morrowind is another province. Let's see. Can I
But
go? If
it's
I go here, does
both
it
in
show
the
you?
same
Bingo.
universe.
Yes. So Morrowind is a province. Skyrim is a province. Cyrodiil is a province, but they're all
What's
on
the
Tamriel.
world called?
Nirn.
Okay, what's Emerald?
Yep. Nirn. So the world is called Nirn. This is uh, the continent of Tamriel, and these are the whatchamacalls it's sub what would they call them over in Europe? We call them states, you call them counties or something like that. I don't know if
Like
it's
a
really
thing that's
small.
in a city or in a country.
Yeah, yeah. So here's Morrowind. This is that country over there. Now, back in the day, Skyrim, once they learned how to shout and stuff, they owned this area and they owned a good chunk of this area as well as basically a lot of this area. They owned a lot of the place because I mean they were very powerful. So, but on to Morrowind. So here we go. So here we go. So what are the Chimer? These are the people who
Why
wanted
is
to
he
worship the
sad?
Daedra, because our okay. So they worship the Daedra, and they have golden skin, but they enslave Argonians.
So sad Argonian because he's a slave.
Yep, and that's because they. This is where the Argonians live, and this is where they live, and so they'd go south and get slaves and get them to build things. That's Dark Elves. They have slaves,
Argonians make good slaves then?
allegedly. I will not confirm nor deny.
Why not?
Because they're my favorite race. So the Dwemer. So we're gonna move on to here. This is my second favorite. So this is
But
really
why are they
important
your favorite race?
because they're lizards.
I mean, they look cool,
They look a lot cooler. This was a bit of a meme image.
but the other people didn't like them.
Yeah, I like them. I think they're one
Or
of the
the,
cooler races.
but do other people not like them?
A lot of people
They
like
they
them.
they they turned them into slaves for a reason. So were they just really good at things?
I think they enslaved them because what I remember is they're very technologically backwards. Like the Dark Elves were kind of in the Middle Ages, and these guys were still kind of Bronze Age-ish or Aztecish.
Yeah.
So they
So they're
kind of just
just
went down there and
so they're more easy to enslave, basically.
yeah. Argonians are very chill, like go with the flow, and these guys are not good people. But here we
Yeah,
go.
they didn't pick so much of a fight. Like,
So the dwarves. This is important to understand because they're also really important to Morrowind because they lived here alongside the Dark Elves for a bit. Um, so the dwarves, they again challenge the gods by building robots and creating life. They're not atheists. They know the gods exist. They're just saying that I can be as good as that. So they're constantly trying to create new machines. Think like the Orokin from Warframe, if that makes sense, a precursor. They build things really well. They do really good science. They make robots. They have cool looking armor, if you ask me. Robo boys, they're cool. I like them.
yeah.
They're also
So
not
they
short.
do believe in God, but they think they can do better than God.
Yes. They think that they can do equally as good or better than God.
But they do
There's a
believe it.
yes, they don't think that they don't exist. But one of the memes is that one time they invited Azura, if you remember that, the Dawn and Dusk lady from before. They
Mhm.
invited her in and basically said, if you can tell me what's in this box, then you win. But if there's nothing in the box, then I win. And so she was like, "You're an idiot.
Yes.
I'm a literal god." And she's like, "There's a rose in there." And then they opened the box and there wasn't a rose in there, and she disappeared. And then the rose fell out of the guy's sleeve, and he was laughing. And then he later died that night. The joke being, he fucking pranked a god and said, "That's fucking hilarious," and died.
And how does one contact a God?
Rituals, prayer, asking them, being defiant. Daedra are easier to commune with than the Aedra because the Aedra form basic functions like gravity, time, love, stuff like that, pretty normal things. Whereas the Daedra are a little bit more esoteric. They're outside. They have more power because they didn't sacrifice their power in creating the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
are more powerful, but they're probably not worthy of worship because they couldn't commit to anything. Um, so those are the dwarves. And so they find the heart of Lorcan in Red Mountain, if you remember that little backstory bit. They find that in the mountain, and they're like, holy shit, that's the heart of a god. Let's fuck with it. And the Chimera were like, holy shit, that's the heart of a god. Don't fuck with it. And the dwarves are like, you're a loser. Watch this.
I'm gonna fuck with it. Yeah.
Yep. And this guy called,
Motherfucker.
yeah, I'm gonna do it. This guy called Kagranak had tools. Does it show up here? No. The Kagranak had tools. Basically, this is Sunder, this is Keening, and this is Wraithguard. They're all basically magic tools that he can mess around and tap into the heart's power. And they wanted to make the entire dwarven race gods by using the power of Lorcan, who was a god. Um, and so they're like, well, we can just tap into that and become gods too, right? And then once this guy hits the hammer with, Sunder and Keening and Wraithguard, all the dwarves just disappear everywhere. They're just gone.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what happens.
They all just deleted.
It's literally like they just gone.
They got snapped by Phantoms.
Yep. And so everyone's like, was it too much for them? Was there a problem with the machine? And there's only one dwarf left because he was out in like another dimension and came back. He's like, where everybody go? um,
What happened?
and that's Yagram Bagarn, and he's just kind of chilling. But you ask him where he thinks the other dwarves went, he's like, I have no, I don't know.
I do not know.
So these guys are trying to mess with the heart of Lorcan, and the Chimera hear about it, and they want to stop them. So they charge into the mountain because the dwarves build underground fortresses. They charge into the mountain, and they fight them. The Nords also want to get involved because I lied. We're back to Skyrim a little bit. The Nords get involved because they hear that they have the heart of their dead god Shore in the mountain. So they're like, "Well, fuck it. I want to get that back." So they're fighting there too, but they get beaten really quickly, and then they like have to go back home. And then this guy Jurgen Windcaller is like, why did we lose? And then he thinks about it and he says that, oh, it's because we're using the voice to wage wars. We're supposed to use it to worship the gods. And then he forms a monk order and he's the only one, and he defeats all the other people who can teach the voice. And so he's the only one who can teach you how to use shouting and stuff. And he lives on a mountain and he says, you can't use this to hurt people. And so we see the disappearance, and it kind of becomes like a taboo art to use the voice to destroy your enemies, if that makes sense.
So no one did that to hurt anyone.
Yeah, he's like, well, screw it. We
Or did
can't.
they do it anyway?
Well, some people decide to do it anyway, and we'll get into them in a bit. But he's basically like, no, it's supposed to be. That's why we lost, is because we were being too ambitious, and we need to worship the gods with the voice. So they lose.
It's
And then
supposed to be a
these
good religious thing, not a weapon.
exactly. So then, yay, the tribunal happens. So tribunal, what they are? We go back to Red Mountain, and this guy hits it, and they all disappear. One guy called Nerevar, who was the leader of the Chimera at the time, says, "Hey, what's going on here? Maybe we shouldn't use these tools." And they were all like, okay, that's fine, we shouldn't. And he's like, okay, guys, you guys watch the tools. I'll be back after talking with Azura, the best bay, the god. And so he goes and talks with Azura, and then he comes back, and then these guys stab him in the back and kill him, and then they use the tools to become gods.
See, okay, that's something.
Yeah. So Nerevar dies, and then Azura shows up and is like, what the fuck? You killed my boyfriend.
It's like, hey, yo, what the fuck?
And they're all like,
Why
"Fuck
you doing that?
you, I'm a god." And then this guy, his name is Set, um, basically says, "Yeah, I'm a god, bitch. What are you gonna do about it? You can't touch this." And she's like, "You're gonna regret this in like 10 years, you idiots." And they're all like, well, "That was cryptic." And then she disappears.
Did
Um,
he regret it or
yes.
not yet?
Well, they all
Okay.
do. I'll tell you how it ends. So this is Amalexia. She's the wife of what's his name, Nerevar when they killed him. And she is Mother Morrowind. She's basically all the maternal aspects, the love, the stuff like that. She cares for her people. Yay, she's good. And then we have Sotha also known as Set, who's the guy. He really likes the dwarves and he likes building things. And so what he does is he uses his godly power to create like a clockwork world. Go back to he's trying to make Nirn the planet again all by himself, but make it better, to make it better than what Lorcan created. So that's his job. That's what he wants. He also likes gold. Um, and then we have Vivek, who
How
is
many pages is this
how many
PowerPoint?
pages? A lot.
How many pages is the power? How far are you?
I don't know. If I back out, I don't want to. I don't want to back out.
True. Okay.
But he has a spear, which, if you remember, Molag Bal, the god of the Daedric god of not so fun bedtime. He is a hermaphrodite because he's a god. He's half dark elf, half chimer. That's what he likes to show here. And
He's like
basically,
actually split for the middle.
he's straight up two different colors. And basically, what this is, what Muatra is, which is the name of his weapon, his spear, it's Molag Bal's penis because he had sex with Molag Bal.
How does one get that?
He literally went up to Molag Bal, flirted with him, and said, "Come on, you know you want this, you creepy god of
And then he
vampires."
chopped it off.
And then he chopped it off, and now he has a spear.
Alright.
And
I
it
mean, he got
regrew.
the wrist,
He rizzed up Molag Bal and stole his PP. So there you go.
wrist up the vampire, then sold their penis again as a weapon.
Yep. And then, oh
Interesting.
no, everyone became a dark elf. So the Chimer were golden skinned, and now they're dark skinned and have red eyes. They're goth now. So basically, what happened was once they did this, is it was like, fine, I'm cursing everybody, and everybody, all the dark elves became, all the Chimer became dark elves.
And then became vampires.
No, these are not vampires. These
They look
are,
vampires.
yeah, they look like vampires. That's just how they look. That's how they're born. That's just what they do. Gray skin, red eyes, and they worship Satan. So basically, goth girls. Um, yeah. So there we go. That's them.